Wow, episode 27. Trades have been made. The stove was red hot and now, dead because trade deadline has officially passed. Me and Kyle in today around the Diamond Baseball podcast. A lot of trades have been made. Uh, our two teams maybe didn't make any moves that we wanted necessarily. I think you're a little bit more disappointed probably than I am, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Um, I don't know if I want to ask how you're doing, Kyle. I'm afraid it's going to be bad.
Mm, I'm getting to the point where I'm not allowing the New York Yankees to affect my mood anymore, so I'm doing okay. How about you, Matt?
um, I'm doing all right. Life outside of the Phillies not making any moves is pretty good, but other than that, we're doing all right. So we got some trades. Obviously, we want to talk about. That's all we're going to talk about this podcast. Trades, who didn't make them, who did make them. Obviously, all of that jazz. Um, Not really going to talk about anything else, I don't think. But we're going to start with the Texas Rangers because they went out and acquired Max Scherzer in sort of not really a shocking move, but an interesting move. Because a lot of people weren't thinking that the Mets were going to trade Scherzer or Verlander. Maybe a week before the deadline, and then turns out that they traded both of them. Talk about Verlander later. But this trade for Scherzer, what does this do for you? Rotation wise, how much more confidence are you feeling for the Rangers after they make this move? Amid also getting Jordan Montgomery, your former guy there, and then bring in some other pieces as well.
Yeah, hmm. It's tough to say really because Scherzer, is such a I mean, he has the phenomenal history, he really does, but recently has not looked too good with the Mets. And that's what worries me a little bit. I mean, you look back at the postseason last year, and that's kind of what I feel like the Rangers are gearing up for. They made these trades to kind of solidify their pitching staff in October. But I mean, I hope and pray that Scherzer can kind of drink from the fountain of youth a little bit and get back to what he was, maybe something. But I like the urgency from the Rangers. I really do. And I will commend them for that. Um, because there's certain teams that have no idea what urgency means. So I'm gonna keep it there. But anyway, um, I think this is a good trade for both teams. I love what the Mets got in return, and I'm sure we're gonna be talking about that.
Yep.
Um, but no, I mean, as I said, I think this is a kind of win-win situation for both teams, and let's just kind of hope that Scherzer can return to form a little bit.
Yeah, and it definitely is helping the Rangers. They're bolstering up their rotation, obviously with the losses of DeGrom earlier in the season. Now, recently, Nate Eovaldi has gone down with an injury, hasn't quite been himself. Also lately, and then even Martin Perez hasn't pitched too great this season for them. So bring in some pieces. Max Scherzer, like you said, has gotten to the point where he's not consistently dominant like he was just 3 years ago even. It's got to the point where you can get some good starts, but you're gonna get some blow up starts as well. So it's good to add him in though, because you never know. You could go on a streak of like 3, 4 great starts in a row, and then it's 100% worth it. Whatever you're trading away. And Montgomery is going to be a nice fourth, fifth guy in the rotation. He's a solid pitcher. You know what you're getting for the most part. You're not expecting an ace performance, but you're also not gonna, you're probably not gonna get blown up for 5, 6 runs a game. So I like that for them. Now on the return side, and this was interesting. The Rangers traded away. I don't know where he was ranked in their farm system, but I believe it's Luis Angel Acuna, Ronald Acuna's younger brother. Um, and he was a decent prospect, I believe, especially within the Ranger system. Pretty good speed, and then I don't think he has insane power, but pretty good contact as well. And the reason they were able to get such a good prospect is because Uncle Steve and the Mets decided to bail out the Rangers and pay like 40 something million of Scherzer's contract, which I think is an interesting strategy that the Mets took, sort of buying prospects, so to say, because they also did that with Verlander and the Astros. They said, hey, we're willing to pay some more so that we can get a better prospect. We're going to pay some of Scherzer's contract that we owe him yet, or that you would owe him yet, but then you're going to have to give us a better guy to save you that 40 million, 20 million, whatever it is. So I like that for them. I think that's a smart move, especially when you have an owner who's willing to give up the money, who's willing to spend the money. I think it makes sense. And it's a great way to get a lot younger and replenish your farm system at a faster rate. But what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I love this return, and the Mets were kind of tied just because of how much money is involved with Scherzer. Um, so if you got the money, buy the prospects. And that's exactly, I feel like that's the road that the Mets took this entire trade deadline. Because obviously we'll talk about it, but Verlander as well. I mean, I kind of got the same vibes from it. So I like it. And especially the Mets. I mean, this what a story that's been. But the road that they took at the deadline selling, and they bought into the whole selling thing, and now they're replenishing their farm system, and it's looking good. I mean, I'm not saying it's like, top in baseball, but it's on the right track. And I like what they're doing, especially because they bought into the whole selling. So I like the move. I do.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard the quote, but I think it was Scherzer who said he was paraphrasing what Billy Epler told him in a meeting, that their window's not this year, not even 2024, but 2025 or 2026, which is very interesting. It's kind of crazy because if you think about it, where they came from last year, they had the division in their hands, in their grasp, and then lost it in literally the last 3 or 4 games of the season to the Braves. And then this year, World Series expectations, to a degree, not by everybody. Some of us were a little skeptical, but a lot of people were putting the Mets in that category. World Series contenders, World Series or bust. Well, it's been a bust now. And now you're not even like tearing it down though, because like you're trading away these old guys, which some people question them bringing in the first place, and then you traded away Mark Canha, Tommy Pham. You traded away David Robertson, but I think he was on a 1-year deal anyway. So you're trading away these guys who had expiring contracts. So in my mind, they're sort of going back to before the offseason, and they made all these signings. That's sort of where they're at now as a team, except they got Kodai Senga as well. Other than that, I like some of their pieces. Alonso, they're going to have to pay him soon. They got Lindor locked up. Francisco Alvarez seems to be doing pretty good at the major league level. He's got a nice bat. And then Brett Baty over there at third base as well. Pitching is where they're going to need some help. And they're going to have to address that with, I don't think they didn't get a pitching prospect from the Verlander trade either. Yeah.
Neither
so they're going to need
the one part that boggled my mind a little bit, but
yeah, you're trading away your two aces. And I use that term lightly. They were supposed to be when they were brought in. They weren't exactly pitching like aces the full season. Some of them had their moments. But now you don't really have anybody. Because in my mind, Kodai Senga is more of a 2 or a 3 in your rotation. I don't think he's your ace. And then, you got Jose Quintana. No, Carlos Carrasco has not looked the same for a long time. He's a 5 at the best in your rotation and might be out of the league soon. So you really need to get some top pitching prospects. And I don't know. I'm not really plugged into Mets prospects. I don't think they have anybody waiting in the wings pitching wise.
There's not much. No.
Yeah. So it's a little puzzling there, but maybe they'll pull a full Angels and with every draft pick they got, pick a pitcher in the upcoming draft here. Who knows? And also, well, to be fair, Steve Cohen has a very deep pocket, and there is a lot of starting pitchers who are going to be available this offseason. Aaron Nola, but he wouldn't want to sign in New York, I don't think. So there are definitely options that they're going to be able to pick up in the offseason. But like you said, a little bit interesting that they didn't opt for any starting pitchers. I guess we'll just stay on the Mets theme because they traded away Justin Verlander as well. In an interesting move, it sort of seemed like it came down to 2, maybe 3 teams. Verlander obviously had the no trade clause, and it was between the Dodgers and the Astros, and then also rumored the Padres as well was a possibility. But definitely the Dodgers and Astros were the main two, and ended up he got traded back to Houston. What were your thoughts about this?
Well, my first thought is in about 20 years, we're going to look at Justin Verlander's baseball reference page, and we're just going to see that half season in New York, and it's just going to be the craziest thing ever. But so when it came down to it, I figured he was going back to Houston, and how fitting because the Yankees are about to open up a 4-game set against Houston, which I think is hilarious. But anyway, I think I personally wanted the Mets to stick with Verlander. I wanted them to keep Verlander. I understood the whole Scherzer thing. I really did. But when it came down to it, I thought this pitching is too thin. They need something to get them through this season and something to build around next season. But obviously next season, is out of question now. So I don't know, get back some kind of pitching pieces. I mean, Houston's farm system is not up there, but they have some pitching pieces in their farm that they could have easily gotten. I like their return, don't get me wrong. Number 1 prospect, that doesn't go lightly. But the fact that he's an outfielder, I mean, you're just, as we keep stating, you're getting like infielders, you're getting outfielders, you're not getting the help that you need, which is in your pitching staff. And as we mentioned, the Mets farm is not loaded with pitching prospects. So you kind of need to figure something out there. But other than that, like I said, they bought it into the rebuild. And since they're kind of going this way, I like what they got.
Yeah, and they pulled the exact same route, like I said earlier, with Scherzer. Ended up paying some of Verlander's salary off so that they were able to get the top prospect in the Astros organization. And then another one as well is 2 outfielders, numbers 1 and number 4 in the Astros prospect rankings, which is that's a decent return for Verlander, even though I know he's got the rest of this year and next year. But still, it seemed like that was kind of a lot for a guy who he's turned it around as of late a little bit. And I know he's a 3-time Cy Young winner, but I don't know. It seemed like a lot, but I don't know. They did end up paying, like I said, they paid a lot of his salary off. It's going to be nice for the Astros bringing him back. He's already, I don't know how much this actually affects Major League Baseball players, but like he's going to be all acquainted with everything there. It's, returning to where he was. It's like he went away on a little trip for half the year and now he's back. So back to leading this sort of decimated by injuries Astros rotation. They've had a lot of guys go down. McCullers is out for the season, I believe.
Yeah.
And then Framber he's had an ankle issue recently. I think I'm missing another guy, but I can't remember right now.
Luis Garcia.
Yeah. And they need another guy in their rotation. And whether he'll be their number 1, probably not. He'll probably be a 2 or a 3 behind Framber, maybe Christian Javier, depending how he pitches the rest of the season. But it's nice to slot him in there versus like a JP France. You can put him at your 4 in the rotation. You don't have to include him in that playoff rotation. When it comes down to you need 3 guys for your rotation, well, you can say, hey, we don't have to include JP France. We feel a bit better with veteran and former MVP and 3-time Cy Young winner Justin Verlander took us to the promised land last year. I think that's who we want to slide in versus rookie JP France. So I think that makes a lot of sense for the Astros. And at the end of the day, if you overpaid a little bit with prospects, to me, that's okay. I'm not a big prospects guy. Phillies dealt their number 4 prospect for Michael Lorenzen. We'll talk about that a little bit later, I guess. But I'm like, hey, whatever. Number 4 prospect doesn't necessarily mean anything. Because how many times you see these guys get traded and then they don't end up being that good necessarily anyway. It happens a lot. So to me, prospects at the end of the day, if you lose some of your better ones, not the biggest deal at the end of the day. But where do we want to jump next? So many trades to discuss. You have any that are coming to your mind right now you want to talk about?
I mean, there's just a lot. Me personally, I think one of my favorite trades was Aaron Savali going to the Rays. I
Definitely.
like this for them. I mean, whoever goes to Tampa just like, I don't know, turns into Mike Trout or, prime Pedro Martinez. So, the fact that Savali is having a damn good year, going to a pitching staff that has been decimated by injuries, but has seemingly have no effect on them
Yeah,
whatsoever.
still been incredible.
Um, you know, they got adding Savali with Glass now, Eflin, and and just the rest of those studs that they got in there, and not to mention they're gonna be ending up getting back those pieces that were injured. But no, McClanahan as well. But I don't understand how the Rays do it, but I love it for Savali. I think he's a guy who has always had that the stuff, but has never taken that next level. And I feel like that's where he's going to go with Tampa. I feel like he's going to reach that next level and start to take off and really give them a huge boost in that pitching staff, especially gearing up for October.
Yeah. So his contract will be expiring this year, and chances are if he finishes out the season pretty good, he'll be getting a decent contract because he's been pitching pretty well this season, pitching to a 2.34 ERA. So honestly, not that bad. 2.7 B WAR. And who knows if the Rays re-sign him, just being the cheap franchise that they are. But
Exactly.
they gave up. I'm not sure if it was their number 1 or number 4 prospect, I forget, but a first baseman, Kyle Manzardo, which it sure seems like they got first base locked down with Yandy Diaz for the time being, that they're
Yeah.
not going to be needing to call up any prospects anytime soon. And to bring in some guy who's been pitching, a a sub 3 ERA is good, but this guy's pitching even lower than that. Add him into your rotation, make a push, maybe get the division back from the Orioles would be huge for them. Obviously, Rays have been in a big slide since like the first 2 months of the season. They have not been world beaters that everybody's claimed them to be. So they've been in a bit of a slide, and I think this will definitely help shore up their rotation. Like you said, he's kind of been underrated, and he can definitely. It seems like there's untapped potential there for him that the Rays just seem to always be able to find a way to squeeze the most juice out of all the oranges. And yes, that's a Tropicana joke right there. Love that for me. I didn't even try that. Wow. Yeah. But yeah, they always seem to find a way to get the most out of all their players, all their pitchers, especially pitchers, it feels like, but anybody in general, it seems like. And yeah, I think it was a good move for the Rays. But, at the end of the day, Guardians, I'm not sure why they gave up on the season because they're not that far away in the Central. And now they ended up trading away a couple of their guys, which, I mean, we could talk about it right now. They dealt Josh Bell, which I guess he was sort of set up to be a trade piece from the beginning because they signed him to a 1-year deal. And they got Josh Naylor. So it's not like they don't have a first baseman, but it sort of sucks to me. Like, why are you're close to competing in the Central? Why are you trading away your guys?
You're in a weak division, and the Twins didn't do anything.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thought that I got as well, especially because they're a young, fiery team. We saw it last season in the ALDS. They had the Yankees on the ropes. They weren't that far off. And for the fact, yeah, I mean, I expected them to kind of make some good moves over the offseason, add at the deadline, and then, make a push for that Central Division. But obviously that is not the case. Guardians are a weird team when it comes to this stuff. I don't get it. Because
Yeah.
obviously they didn't get to the full rebuild. Because, you still got Bieber on there. You got, one of the best third basemen in J Ram. I don't know. I
You got
mean,
a guy
they're
like if you would have wanted to trade Josh Naylor, this would have been the season because he's been
yeah.
insane this year. He's been one of the most underrated players this
Oh
season.
yeah.
Like his value's never been higher. He's hitting 306. Okay?
And you haven't heard of him like at all this season.
Yeah. And yeah, he's only signed through 2023 it says here. I mean, that would have been a
This
perfect rental so to
perfect
say
year.
to get rid of. But I mean, sure, if you like him and you see him being your first baseman of the future, I get not trading him, but then why are you trading away these other guys? Like Savali would have been a nice piece for you to have moving forward, but instead you deal him off and flip him for another first baseman.
For a first baseman. That was yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they are kind of a weird organization when it comes to that. Like, there's cheap, like the A's or even the Reds were known for being cheap. The Pirates are known for being cheap. But then there's cheap and then but competing at the same time. And that's sort of
Yeah.
like the Rays at the highest level. And then there's the Guardians seem to be good at that too. Because they've been
Yeah.
at least decent for a little while now. And yeah, I don't know. End up trading people away, but I guess finding pieces to replace them with. I don't know. Uh let's jump around. I want to talk about who do I want to talk about? Wow. Lots of teams to talk about. Let's talk about the D-backs. I don't know that they had an underwhelming trade deadline, but they didn't go out and get a starter like a lot of people thought they would. They did go out and get Paul Sewald, relief pitcher, closer from the Mariners, which I liked for them a lot. They also went out and got Tommy Pham from the Mets, stolen from the Phillies, but I'm okay with that. But yeah, I like the Paul Sewald move. I was slightly surprised he got traded because I didn't know if the Mariners were full on selling or not, but they were, and then traded away Sewald for outfielder Dominic Canzone, infielder Ryan Bliss, and Josh Rojas, with Rojas being the only guy with significant major league time so far. So obviously, D-backs' main concern going into the deadline was relievers, and they were able to address that a little bit. They also ended up trading away Andrew Chaffin, which I was like, okay, you needed relievers. Why'd you end up trading him away too? I don't know. But what do you think of the Sewald move?
I liked it for him. I mean, they needed a guy to close out games, and Seawald has been one of the most kind of reliable closers in the league for the last few seasons. He kind of flew under the radar. You didn't really hear too much about him, but he was up there in Seattle doing his thing, and I think that's going to translate over to the Diamondbacks very nicely. Um, I like it, but like as you said before, they didn't address starting pitching, which kind of worries me a little bit. Especially going up, you're trying to take on the Dodgers here in that division, and you kind of need all the help you can get, especially since you are such a young team. And I think, I mean, any kind of pitching, from veterans to young studs who are coming up, whatever it is, I feel like you needed it and you didn't get it, and that's what kind of rubs me the wrong way about their deadline.
I think a proven veteran would have been great for them. A guy like Eduardo Rodriguez, if he would have accepted the
Yeah.
trade there, which who knows if he would have. I think that would have been a very nice piece for them because he's got
Mhm.
time left on his contract too, and he's proven. Like the Phillies took a flyer on Michael Lorenzen, who before this season sort of not been fantastic. He hasn't been consistent. Like he has had his good moments, but like I don't think that's what the D-backs needed to do. If they could have got Dylan Cease, let's say, if the White Sox would have traded him, lowered the price, or like what was the other guy I was just thinking of? Stroman. If the Cubs would have traded him, that would have been moves I would have liked for the D-backs. Even Savali, if they would have been in on him, I would have liked that. Now I'm glad they didn't go out and get like I said, a Lorenzen, a Lance Lynn, some of these guys who have been not struggling. Like Lorenzen hasn't been struggling like Lance Lynn, but like I said, I'm glad they didn't go out and get not inexperienced, inconsistent guy. I think that was smart of them. Whether they were trying to do that or not, I don't know. But I agree that they should have went out and got a starter. But at the end of the day, apparently the asking price for Dylan Cease was pretty ridiculous. So
yeah,
maybe they made the right decision in that. I don't know. But I agree. They should have got a starter. The Tommy Pham move, you like that? I mean,
yeah. I mean, it adds a veteran bat into their lineup, which is filled with a bunch of young guys. So I like it. I think his presence is going to do very well for them. And he's having a very, very good season for some reason. But it's cool to see. And I hope that translates over into Arizona. And hopefully he'll be that veteran presence that they need.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more lenient about hitters who have been streaky in their career and you got them while they're hot. I think that's a little bit better than pitchers. That's just my personal preference. Maybe it makes no sense, but it's just what I think. So I'm more okay with that move than if they would have, like I said earlier, gotten a pitcher. But I think we want to stay in the NL West now because the Padres made an interesting decision. Decided to be buyers after sweeping the Rangers over the weekend, even though they're still, I gotta believe they're still below 500. But obviously not trading. They had valuable pieces for sure with Blake Snell, with Josh Hader. And yes, I was right. They're still sitting 3 games below 500. So not even, you got a long way to climb out. But even to trade away Blake Snell or Hader, with both of them having expiring contracts, you want to sign Juan Soto to an extension. It's a lot of money to pay, but hey, they decided to be buyers. They went out, they got Garrett Cooper, first baseman from the Marlins. Doesn't do a lot for me in my book, but whatever. Also got Scott Barlow from the Royals, Rich Hill from the Pirates, and Ji-Man Choi. So quite a few moves that they've made. Not any giant moves, but improving around the edges for the most part. What do you think about the Padres' decision to buy in the first place, and then also about the moves they did make?
So I like the moves they made, but as I'm kind of piggyback off of what you said, I think they should have sold Snell and Hader just because of the expiring deals. And you got Soto there, who's going to want a big contract. So shutting off any kind of payroll that you possibly can, and not to mention getting a very nice return, especially for Snell. I mean, Snell is having a hell of a season. Leading baseball in ERA. That's got to mean something, and that's what they should have done, in my opinion. But if we're going off of strictly the moves that they have made, I like them.
Yeah, it was, to me, it was like okay, yeah, you made some moves. You didn't do a lot, and now they got that nice old trio of starting pitchers and Seth Lugo, Rich Hill, and who's the last guy I'm thinking of?
Michael Wacha.
Yeah, Michael Wacha back there. So that's interesting. And add another team to Rich Hill's career path. Interesting. I like the Scott Barlow move the most probably. And even Ji-Man Choi, I think, is a nice, sneaky left-handed bat. You would know he terrorized the Yankees in the East for a little while, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know if he was that good against the Yankees. I just know he played for the Rays. So.
He was. No, he was.
Okay.
I hated him.
He was a nice power bat, and it makes sense that the Pirates got rid of him because, hate to break it to you, Pirate fans, but you're not doing anything this season anymore, as much as you thought so in the first couple weeks. But it made sense for them to get rid of those two guys because they're not doing anything for the future of the Pirates. That's for sure. Rich Hill could retire any year now. It wouldn't surprise anybody. So it was a good move though for the Padres, I think. And like we said, sort of surprising that they decided to buy, but at the end of the day, I guess they think, and we can have the same conversation we had a month into the season when we were saying, or should we be out on the Padres already? Well, they still got that same big four of guys. Machado, Tatis, Bogarts, and Juan Soto. I mean, at the end of the day, those four guys in a lineup, you're thinking they're going to make the playoffs. And obviously they haven't been putting it together to put themselves in a spot to make the playoffs so far. But I guess AJ Preller still thinks that they can turn it around. I don't know. Not sure what to expect, from the Padres the rest of the season. Because to me, these moves aren't the type to turn your season around. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like moves that are like, oh, this is going to send us to the World Series. This wasn't Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. This was four decent players, average MLB players, not fantastic guys, but maybe that's what they need because they already have the four superstars. I don't know, but we're gonna move on now. Okay, so we just talked about all the moves that were made. Now on the more disappointing side, and both of our teams included, the lack of moves that were made. Some of the teams that come to mind: Yankees, Orioles, Twins, Reds, Phillies to a bit of a lesser extent. They made 2 trades, but not anything really show-stopping. As much as Michael Lorenzen was an all-star, I don't really know that that's more of a pity all-star in my opinion because Tigers have to have somebody. So I'm not really impressed by that personally. But we'll start with your Yankees because I would love to hear this little rant here that we're going to get. What's the mood right now in Yankee Land?
I promise that I am not going to make this any more than what it needs to be because trust me, I have a whole thing lined up, but I promise I won't go too in depth. Pretty much, Brian. I mean, everybody needs to go. This trade deadline, it just shows that this team is not serious whatsoever. And look, as a Yankee fan, and I'm sure I can speak for a whole bunch of other Yankee fans, we would have been fine if you chose a route. Instead, they did nothing. They made 2 moves, but they brought in a reliever who's on an expiring deal. And then they brought in Spencer Howard, who is also a reliever now, used to start games. You know him very well.
Yeah.
He has a 10.80 ERA this season, and about a 7 career ERA. That's the 2 moves that the Yankees have made, and they waited until the last about 10 minutes of the deadline to make these moves. Now, like I said, if you want to sell, fine, do it. You have Harrison Bader, who's on an expiring deal, Wandy Peralta, Clay Holmes. Obviously, Gleyber Torres was named there for a little while. The Marlins have been trying to get him for years. The Marlins have such good pieces. Do something. I don't care what it is. If you really think that this team is enough, go out and buy. I would have been fine with that as well. But pick a route. Don't just sit there and do nothing like you always do. I'm sorry, but it's getting to the point now where Brian Cashman needs to be gone. It is unheard of that a general manager is with a club for however long it is. But Brian Cashman has been with the Yankees since I have been alive. Since me, you, and Mello have been alive. He has been with this damn organization for the last 25 years. There is no reason. We have not made it even close back to where we should. 2017 was our peak. That's exactly what this is. So, pretty much, and also I there was a report out that all the other GMs that the Yankees have been in contact with to make trades, our asking price was way too high, which I think is just hilarious. Brian Cashman thinks that he's this mastermind behind all these trades and behind the New York Yankees. I'm sorry, but it's not like that anymore. Um, and for all the people who want to say, oh, the Yankees finally they're on a shitty route, whatever it is, I never got to experience that dynasty. I've seen one World Series win, and I was 9 years old. So for me, it's a little bit different. It hurts a little bit more because I wasn't alive for that dynasty that the Yankees were on. I hear stories about it, but so moral of the story is I'm pissed. They should have picked the direction to go, and they didn't. It doesn't surprise me one bit. But they literally did nothing. Now, like I said, I could keep going here, and I'm gonna also add in that Boone needs to be gone as well. Anyway, I could go and go and go for hours on end, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it at that. The Yankees suck. They need to figure something out because this fan base is getting sick of it, and I promise you that a lot of this fan base is going to turn their heads this season. They're not going to watch the rest of it. It's nothing but a clown show in the Bronx right now, and it's kind of ridiculous. So I'm going to leave it at that.
I don't know how much I can really add to that, because you really covered all the bases. And this sort of idea that you can have Aaron Judge carry 95% of the load and then on the offensive end and then piece around him, okay, Rizzo's not who he used to be. He's not bad. He's not bad, but he's not great. Okay, Gleyber Torres is having a good season. And I've heard that Yankees fans are actually, they're liking him this season because he's been consistent. He's been good.
Yeah.
Okay. But then you piece in Josh Donaldson. I know he's injured and I don't want to tear up open wounds, but Josh Donaldson, IKF, Giancarlo Stanton, who's on the IL every other month. Harrison Bader's been a nice piece, a nice pickup for them for sure. But and then the whole Jake Bowers, whoever else is in the outfield for them. It's not you can't build a team like that. You see the Orioles, the Rays, they have legitimate names out there across the board. They don't just have Aaron Judge, a few decent guys, and then whoever else you could pick up out of the bargain bin. That's not how teams are being built right now.
Nope. They have one of the highest. They have the second highest payroll in baseball, and you mean to tell me you don't have a single left fielder on the roster? They have one left fielder on payroll. They have one, and you know who it is? Aaron Hicks. That's the left fielder that they have on payroll right now. They have infielders playing the outfield on a consistent basis. We have Billy McKinney, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and Jake Bowers playing the outfield. Because there's only so much Aaron Judge can do on his own, and he's going to be playing a lot of DH because of his toe. So if you mean to tell me that you can go make a deep October run with a bunch of infielders playing the outfield, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and sure, on the pitching end, Garrett Cole is an ace. It could be up for AL Cy Young this year. That's great. Carlos Rodon, I don't really hold it against you that he hasn't pitched well. I mean, I will say I wasn't a 100% Carlos Rodon fan in the offseason. I wasn't. I don't know if I'm on the record for that or not. I don't remember, but I'm at least I can tell myself this because I know that's what I was feeling. I don't know if I even said it. I forget. But I was not a fan of giving him a huge contract because one, he's older. Two, he's had an injury history. Three, before those two good seasons with the White Sox and Giants, he wasn't a great pitcher before that. The track record wasn't quite there. So I don't hold that completely against the Yankees because they signed him and he hasn't pitched and then didn't pitch good when he has pitched. I don't know. It's not like you said, Cashman needs to go. It's not a nice put together team at all. It's just pieces don't make sense. You can't keep going out and trading for former MVPs who are on these huge contracts. And then surprise, surprise, they get injured or they don't play like MVPs or play up to their contracts. You can't be disappointed when that happens and try and plug it with guys who it's not their position. It doesn't make sense.
Basically, I'm gonna sum it up real quick and then we'll move on here. The Yankees ended up, I mean, in the offseason, they needed to fix this offense. That was the issue. The pitching staff was fine even before Carlos Rodon. It was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. And the bullpen, year in and year out, that's Brian Cashman's specialty is the bullpen. That thing, the bullpen's amazing year in and year out. I will give him credit for that. But they needed to address the offense, and they didn't. Come to the deadline, there's pieces that they could have done to improve that offense. They got two relievers, where the Yankees are actually ranked number one in bullpen ERA this season. They got two relievers. So, like I said, this entire season, including last season as well, they needed to fix the offense, and they did not. And now it's going to bite them in the ass because now they're going to end up missing the playoffs because of this. So that's, yet another thing. And Brian Cashman needs to go. It's time. It's been long overdue. So yeah, we'll move on and we'll go from there.
Yep. We'll stay in the AL East. Talk a little bit about the Orioles because they were a team that was rumored to be going after either of the Mets aces, and I think it's believed that they were in talks with them for them, at least to be getting some sort of starting pitching, because that's sort of what the main piece that they needed was a veteran. Not that they don't have veterans, they got some, but like a ace, so to say, for the staff. And they didn't go out and get one. They got Project Jack Flaherty from the Cardinals, who has not been really that great this season, a 6 ERA, I believe. And he was once pretty good, not great, I wouldn't say, but he hasn't been that good for a little while now, a couple seasons. So it was a bit of a head scratching move, not really making any moves. I understand there wasn't a lot of other places you had to improve upon, like bullpen, good. Literally, like the whole outfield and infield, you're set. Catcher, obviously set. Starting pitcher is where you need to make a move. You made one, but it really wasn't a great move. And debatably, you didn't have to make any moves. You're in the lead in the AL East. You're in a great spot, but these other teams, the Rays are improving. Maybe you'd want to go out and get a starting pitcher. They didn't. A little bit puzzling. What do you think about that as a Yankees fan?
As a Yankees fan, I was happy, but as a baseball fan, I was disappointed. Because this Orioles team they're special. They have a chance to do some big things this season. I'm not going out on the quote here and saying that they're going to win the World Series, but I think they are trending in the right direction 110%. But the one thing that they needed, they did not get. And I can't tell you how much I would have loved to see Justin Verlander or Max Scherzer in an Orioles uniform. This pitching staff, I don't think is ready. I mean, I think it's not going to show right now, but once October comes, I think that's when it's going to show. And like I said, that's what really disappointed me. I'm not saying that I hate the Jack Flaherty move, because maybe a change of scenery is all he needs, and maybe he will start to turn it around. But it's not the move that they needed to make. That's what makes the Jack Flaherty move a little bit more disappointing than anything for me. Like I said, the Orioles are an amazing team, and they're going to be for years. But this was a deadline where they could have really cemented themselves and got some real confidence. Let's say they make it to the ALCS and they're like, you know what? We're out, but guess what? Next year, we're going to be right back in it. It's finally our time, blah, 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 But they didn't make that move. And it sucks so bad as a baseball fan because I wanted them to do it. I really, really did.
Yeah, I agree. It was the potential was there, to make that blockbuster move and to bring on one of these guys. Even Scherzer, we saw opted into next year with the Rangers. Verlander had time left on his contract. You get one of those guys, Eduardo Rodriguez, even bring him in, at least has some postseason experience. It would have been nice to see them add some sort of veteran pitching. They didn't, like we said, so it was a little bit disappointing to hear that. we're gonna move on. Keep going with the theme of disappointment. That's the whole theme of the second half. Sorry to break it to you guys, but the Reds didn't make like any moves at all. I don't think. Um, it was rumored they'd be going after starting pitching as well. They did not. It was rumored, they could go after a bat maybe too. They did not. They weren't. They didn't need to be in a place to trade Jonathan India because he ended up going to the IL. But it was a little bit disappointing to see the Reds, who are this young, exciting team, not really try and build off of their momentum. Sort of the same thing as the Orioles, except on a lesser, like they aren't as good as the Orioles. You would have thought, though, maybe they'd trade from their wealth of prospects to get a starting pitcher or something. And obviously they did not.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head there with that last sentence you had said. They're not there with the Orioles yet, but they're getting there, and I don't think they're in the right move to make a big move like this. Um, but obviously, years to come, they're going to be. So, like I said, I don't think I'm as disappointed in as like to the Reds that I am the Orioles specifically for that. So I'm not. I would have liked some exciting pieces to go to Cincinnati just because since he's been so bad and finally having them come around, it's really good for the game. So adding an exciting bat or an exciting pitcher to the mix would have been cool, but I'm not. I mean, I don't think they're going to make it, deep in October, whatever it is, if they even make it to October. But I do think they're on the right track and it'll get there. It's kind of whatever for me with this deadline with Cincinnati, just strictly because I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah. Yeah, they were a little premature in becoming good this season. So maybe you cut them a little bit of a break in that sense. But still, the fact that I think there was pieces they could have gone after, but I think the rumors were they were hesitant to give up to reach the high asking prices is what the rumors were for some of the guys, or they felt that the asking prices were high, whether that's just the GM being a little, I don't want to say cheap, but like valuing the guys out there less. I don't know. But yeah, at the end of the day, they didn't make any moves. Whether they'll be good enough still to make it to the postseason or not, I guess we'll have to see. But we're gonna stick around in the Central, and then we're gonna jump to my Phillies after that. But right now, the Twins. I really don't understand their strategy here. Uh, they don't go out and get anybody. They're in first place in the AL Central, one game above 500, so not at a good spot really. And they don't go out and trade for anybody. They sort of stand pat with who they have. Questionable. Doesn't really make much sense. And sure, you're in a mid division, but like, okay, great. You make it, you win your division, you get a playoff series. You're going to still have to play the wild card series because you're the worst division leader. So you're just going to get knocked out in the first round by like the Rays or the Blue Jays. Like, I mean, what are you doing here? You want to win the division? Okay, you can win the division by being 500, I guess, but why not go out and get a little bit better?
Um, I agree with you here, and this is where I'm kind of like it's very similar to the Guardians situation. One of these teams is going to get a free ticket into October. That's pretty much the way I look at it. Um, so why not take advantage of it? I mean, you're a team that is in a in a very low-ended division. So if you can play 500 and make it into October, I think that's something that you need to take advantage of. And that's what the Twins did not do. And neither did the Guardians. The Guardians are basically selling. like this, it's not really making too much sense to me. Um, I mean, the Twins have a decent roster. Go out, add some bats, add some pitchers, whatever it is, and try to get past that wild card round. You know, because like I said, you're getting a free ticket into October. So why not?
Exactly. It was a little, like I said, just disappointing. They didn't really do anything at all. There were some rumors they were in talks with the Mariners for Ty France or Teoscar Hernandez, which, hey, that would have been nice. At least you did something. You did something to try to improve the lineup, but you did nothing. Literally nothing. I don't think they made a single trade, buying or
No,
selling,
they didn't.
at all. So, like, I don't want to say pick a path because you're winning the division. There's no need to sell. Why did you not buy anybody? And it's not like you're the Orioles where you're the best team in the American League record wise. You're one game above 500. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. Why not go out there and improve at least around the edges? You could have did what the Padres did and made a bunch of minor moves. You didn't have to make a blockbuster, but trade for somebody, please. I don't know. A little bit frustrated by that one. That one I think gets me the most. Like, because you act like you want to win the division, but you're not good. And then you don't make any moves to get better either. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. Either way, we're going to close out with my Phillies here. And I won't take too long because at the end of the day, I'm not overly upset. I'm not quite in the same same spot as you were. I'm not that upset
Mhm.
because I know Dave Dombrowski. He's very willing to make trades. That's for sure. So I don't know if the market wasn't right. They didn't have pieces they were looking. Well, there was pieces that the Phillies could have got. I know that's for sure. They could have used an outfielder, maybe. They could have used some help in the bullpen. Which the bullpen's been good, but you can always use help in the bullpen. They went out and got a starter, Michael Lorenzen. I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. Uh, you trade for Rodolfo Castro, but you're getting rid of Bailey Falter, which, hey, thank goodness. I mean, see you later, Bailey. Have fun in Pittsburgh. Honestly, I have nothing against the guy like as a person, but as a baseball player, I just never seem to figure it out for the Phillies. I don't know. But like I said, I'm not upset. Maybe a little disappointed you didn't get an outfielder or a bigger bat, but whatever. I like all the Phillies pieces right now. They don't have a glaring need, so I can understand why they didn't go out and get anybody. So at the end of the day, a little disappointed, but I'm all right. What do you think about the Phillies deadline lack of moves?
Um, I think the Michael Lorenzen piece of it, I liked it. I mean, you know, you can never have too much pitching. The guy was an all-star this year. I understand every team needs an all-star, but I mean, it still counts for something, I guess, But I think I'm most disappointed in the Phillies, um, strictly because of the outfield situation. Schwarber needs to get out of left field. I think that's pretty definite, especially considering that, I'm almost positive he leads left fielders in all of errors. So I think the fact that Harper can now play first base, I like that because now that opens that DH spot for Schwarber. So why not
Yes.
go and get a left fielder so you can do that? And I mean, as the day was going on, there was talks with Harrison Bader. I thought maybe the
Mm-hmm.
Yankees Phillies would do an old trade, but I would have liked that move for them. I mean, honestly, like Tommy Pham, I would have liked that too. I just think you guys needed to make some sort of move to get Schwarber out of that left field spot, and it didn't happen, and that's what kind of rubs me the wrong way. But looking at the grand scheme of what they did here, I think that I still think it's a win because Michael Lorenzen, I I like him. I mean, I'm not saying he's gonna change the pitching staff overnight, but um, I think it's a solid pickup for sure.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not anything great in my opinion, like I said, but it's all right. I think the plan is Jake Cave in left field now, which
Hmm.
I mean, hey, he was actually really ripping it up in spring training, and then obviously it was just too crowded. There wasn't space for him, so he got sent down. Um, but he was on the 40-man roster, I think, most of the season, like as that guy, like, hey, if we need you, we're calling you up. And now that, like you said, or not Hoskins, I wish, man, Harper at first base, uh, it opens up the DH spot. Schwarber DH, Jake Cave in left field. Now, what have I loved? A Harrison Bader, a Teoscar Hernandez, even maybe a Randall Grichuk over Jake Cave in left field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would have. But at the end of the day, I don't hate Jake Cave in left field. It's like I said, it's okay. It's not great. It's not bad. It's okay. I mean, if the Phillies or the Yankees would have been willing to do a Harrison Bader for Bailey Falter trade, I think we could have made that happen. Uh, but I don't think that would have been realistic anyway. I don't know. Do you have a winner and a loser for the trade deadline? I'm sure you have a loser, Kyle.
No, of course I do. It's my New York Yankees. I was debating whether or not to say the whole state of New York, but I think the Mets returns that they had gotten, I think kind of saved them a little bit. So for me, I think it's the Yankees and the Twins are the losers. Um, Winners, I think I like what the Marlins did. I think I'm gonna
Mm,
go with the Marlins for the winners. Um, I was debating between them and the Dodgers, but I don't I just think that I think that Miami kind of just made the right moves and I like what they're doing. So I'm going with Miami for the winners. Yankees and Twins is my losers.
okay. I could literally mirror exactly your picks for losers. I was hoping you'd stick just Yankees and I could just go with just Twins. But if we're
I
doubling
had
up,
to.
give me Yankees and Twins too, I guess, for losers, pretty much. Because like I said, Twins I think I'm most disappointed with across the whole state of baseball. D-backs are close though. I was a little disappointed in their moves. Paul Sewald saved it,
I can
but
see that.
winner for me would be the Rangers, I think. Uh, like I said, or like we said earlier, went out and got some starting pitching. We didn't even talk about they got Austin Hedges, catcher, as their guy Jonah Heim went down with an injury right now, so he's gonna be nice to fill in for him. I think they like shoring up the pitching was good. Getting a catcher to fill in for Heim is huge as well. So I like what they did. And at the end of the day, you gave up a prospect, but that's all right. That's it's part of the game when you're trading guys. So don't be upset about giving up a good prospect. That's my advice to fans. Don't be beating yourself up about it. But I think that's pretty much it for episode 27. Yeah,
Think so.
a bit of a it was a decent trade deadline. Nothing huge. Um, Angels sort of winners too. They went out and made a lot of trades. We didn't even talk about
That is
CJ Crow
true.
and Randall Grichuk. They made some nice moves. But yeah, I think that's going to be everything for episode 27. We tried to cover everything the best we could for all the trades that happened. You know, we didn't get everybody, but that's going to happen. So we're going to see you later. Episode 27 in the books, and looking forward to the rest of the baseball season now. Here we go. Kyle's not looking forward to it, but that's all right. All right, guys, we'll see you later.
Yeah, not so much. Later.